That's huge. That is a biggie. It's out of here.
Hello and welcome to 2020 Stars, and I'm your host Namita with you. Now there is only few days left in American presidential elections, and if you haven't decided as yet whom to vote, then watch our exclusive debate between a Republican and a Democrat. And you can also watch this bulletin on timestars.com. So let's start.
Welcome to Time Stars Talk 2020, and thank you to both of you for joining and making your time out in this busy schedule. I have here Vaisheshri Jalajam from the Democrat side, and I have Mr. Shashi Bhushan Mocherla on the Republic side. As we have watched the most talked about debate between the two presidential candidates, President Trump and Joe Biden, what were your reactions looking at the debate? What do you think of that? So I'll start with Vaisheshri.
Hi, thanks, Anjali. First, I would like to wish everybody happy Navaratri. That's okay. Since we are in the season, to all those who are celebrating, a very happy Navaratri. So, three things that I can summarize in this short 2-minute time span is things that we look for are things like economy, right? As a family, what do I want? So what I care about is my health of my family and health of my neighbors. On economy, Biden on the debate stage and elsewhere has been clear. Right? What the kind of tax credits he's giving for low-income people under 400, the kind of tax market credits he's giving to certain sectors of the industry. Right? He's giving increasing tax credits for childcare, so lower-income people can have more access. So Joe Biden has a plan. Right? He has a plan to work against to heal these. He will not fan the flames of racism. He's giving Hindu temples, gurudwaras, right? With his crime bill, he has identified that any crime against Hindus, Sikhs, or Jains is a hate crime, right? So that gives us additional security.
Coming to Mr. Bhushan, sir, what was your opinion of the debate, and what do you have to say for your candidate?
First of all, namaste to both of you, and happy Navaratri too. I hope we'll all have a wonderful conversation here today. From a debate perspective, I don't think either candidate did well. I don't think it was not a true reflection of who they are and what their views are, personally speaking. When we come from India, we are typically Democrats, okay? And then, if you know the income tax brackets and everything, top 25% pay 50% pay 96% of the income tax, and 1% pay 40% of the income tax and stuff like that. If you see about the economy in the last 4 years, the economy has boomed. I don't need to tell you the stock exchange, how everybody is loving the stock exchange, how they were doing, their 401ks are doing and everything before COVID. And when you see the unemployment numbers of both Hispanic and Black African Americans, it has been the lowest since the Second World War. Now, let's talk about safety. We have been seeing about more than 20 cities that were, there was rioting and looting for the last, 8 weeks and stuff like that. If you see the pattern, meaning I have a list of those cities, every city is being ruled by which party? Democratic mayors were there. They were ruling all this, whether you take Seattle, San Francisco, meaning I can go down the list.
Let's go on to the second question of mine, which is in the current presidency, which we had under President Trump, what do you think? How was his performance in the last 4 years, and what did he do for the Indian Americans? I'll start with Bhushanji on this. If you can highlight some of the key points which you think were good for the Indian Americans especially.
Biggest benefit that Indian Americans got is the tax breaks. Okay, he could not make it permanent. Hopefully, if he gets re-elected, one of the promises he made is he will make those tax breaks permanent, so that every American, not only Indian American, they will be benefited from that one. The more importantly, we all come from India. Okay, when we are coming from India, when the issue with the China happened in Ladakh, okay, no American president, not even single, except President Trump, basically said, I got your back. He sent 2 carrier strike groups Each carrier strike group contains about 50 warships, including an aircraft carrier, lot of missile ships, lot of submarines and everything. He moved 2 of them to South China Sea to give support to Prime Minister Modi and India and said, I got your back.
Okay, Vaisheshi, we'll go with the same question with you. What you see in the last 4 years under the current President Trump, what he has done for the Indian Americans?
So number one, first thing, I don't think Trump has done anything specifically to Indian Americans, or here's a policy, or here is a tax break just for Indian Americans, because that's not how it works in America. It's a country that treats everyone equally, so there can be one based on your race, origin, or religion, right? So just like Bush and G said, there were some tax cuts that were given to the richest of the rich by Trump. Indians, a portion of Indians are part of those richest of the rich, so they've had these tax credits and they have enjoyed the opportunities. When the Chinese aggression happened and in Kashmir it happened, both a committee was formed. It's not like Biden's or Democrats or Trump is sending this information. A committee was formed, and the committee had 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. Together, they made this statement that China cannot be aggressive on India. India has to take a second stand. I can read about what kind of, on Kashmir, how they have to open up communication. So it was a bipartisan thing. With China, with Pakistan, it's what is good for the country, not what's good for India. It's what good for America, what's for the world.
Actually, the narrative that is being spread by the Democratic Party that Biden is a friend of India is false. You can check his voting record, the amendments he had made. I gave you a simple example about Biden amendment in 1992 of stopping cryogenic engines for India. So it is a wrong narrative that, he's a friend of India. One. Number 2, President Obama and Biden administration, they could not even call radical Islam. They cannot use the word radical Islam. 2 days back in France, a teacher, who took Prophet Muhammad cartoons out, he was beheaded. What he did was really wrong and he should have been punished. But some guy comes, he just beheads his, people can't even call it radical Islam.
I want to make a statement because you said Obama never said radical Islam. Let me tell you what Obama did. When Obama got elected, he went straight into the heart of the Middle East in Cairo. He stood there in Cairo and he warned the leaders that I appreciate the peaceful Islam, but if you continue to support, and I will come after each one of you. I stand here. You have to stand up against terrorist Islamic theorists, or what do you call it. So he stood right in the heart of Cairo. He threatened the Middle Eastern leaders and said, you better take action. Guess what happened 6 months later? People were so inspired by Obama's speech in the Middle East that there started an Arab Spring revolution. People overthrew in Lebanon, in Egypt. So that's the power. That's what leaders do. What leaders do is call out where it wrongs. And here is a leader that doesn't even want to call out against white supremacy. Been asked multiple times. Instead, he fans flames of supremacy. And again, I did not say that this was not an argument about Trump put it or not put the Supreme Court. Right now, the Supreme Court is leaning right with pro-life. And all of these 16 states have already enacted these laws. So today in Georgia, from January 1st, 2020, cannot get an abortion, even when it's life is at risk. So that's something Republicans have signed up for it, all the Republicans. So I know as an individual, you support that it's between the woman and her doctor, but Republican Party has done it, and this change cannot be changed for another 40 years without having a strong legislation in the Senate.
So let's just move on to the next question. These back and forth will keep on continuing. Let's talk on immigration and what you guys think both the candidates would do for especially the Indians out here who are on H-1B visas, on green cards, and have been waiting for 20 years, 15 years, waiting on getting their green cards. And these are people, Indians are the ones who are paying taxes, and heavy taxes, 21 to 25% of taxes from their salary. So what do you think your current candidates would do good for the Indian Americans when it comes to immigrations, when it comes to green cards, and especially H-1B visas?
What is happening with H-1Bs, like you said, like you pointed out, what I said was Hindu Americans are less than 1%, we are paying 8%, 6 to 8%. That does not, because these are citizens, but that does not include the H-1Bs that you just mentioned. H-1Bs, our majority of them are Indian Americans, to be quite honest. And they came to this country through legal process and everything. And President Trump has said that, we want to convert this obsolete country-based green card systems. We'll throw it out because it's been there forever. And everybody is waiting because they're in the line and there is a number that they need to meet. President Trump has already said that we'll move it to point-based system. And when you move it to point and merit-based system, guess who in the world, which country, which demographics will be in the top of the cream? It will be Indian Americans. Absolutely, it will be there. Indians who are on H-1B. They will be put on a expedited citizenship, green card process, and that will clear up and everything. What is happening right now from H-1B, one of the things I want to bring it out that is not mentioned, Anjali ji, is, H-1Bs are there, meaning I own an IT company, I have a lot of employees, they came to this country legally and they're going through the naturalization process, 12 years, 16 years, and some of them 20 years. So when they came to this country, they just got married or have young kids and stuff like that. In this 20-year process, they became, they're going to college. Okay, guess what? They have to pay out of state, even though the parents who are waiting patiently through a legal immigration naturalization process, their kids have to pay, out of state fee in the same state of Georgia that we all belong to, even though the parents have been paying income tax, both state and federal, for last 15, 20 years. Okay, nobody talks about that. I'll tell you what we are doing about it. Okay, as part of Indian American community, we have started something called Hindu PAC, Political Action Committee. It is a bipartisan committee. We have Republicans, we have also Democrats. We are interviewing both the candidates, whether it is, I'll probably, since Vaisheshji ji also knows these people, we interviewed Dr. McCormick from District 7. We interviewed, Ms. Karen Handel and everybody. We also invited Lucy Macbeth and Carolyn Burdo. They didn't even return our phone calls. They don't want to even understand us. So Democratic Party, this is where I'm saying, Democratic Party does not give importance to Hindu Americans because, again, we are being classified as South Asians, Pacific Islanders and stuff like that. We need to be, this is a time we need to be, when we pay tax, we need to have a representation on the seat.
Vaisheshji, we'll go with you.
Immigration, it's a very contentious law. Immigration law is a very contentious issue, and the laws are very confusing. If you notice, Clinton was the first person to increase the number of H-1Bs. And the benefited from H-1B clause of all the countries in the world is a max H-1Bs go to India. And Clinton, then Obama came and doubled it. Right? So Obama-Biden administration, they doubled the number of H-1Bs that we got. And then what happens is Trump comes in, right? Trump has this America First policy, and he came up with this whole idea as America for Americans, American jobs for Americans. They increase the amount of fees an H-1B person has to pay during renewals or during this, the number of fees. It was almost unconstitutional. So you can see in Murthy.com, my friends, they're all in this process. So I hear from them a lot. And this administration has cut resources from USCIS. On top of it, our president says, why are we getting all of these people from here? Why are we not getting more people from, Swedish countries, like Sweden or not? He said that. So immigration, both as a policy, as a company, and as for individuals, under Trump administration has been very.
Thank you to both of you for taking the time out and joining this conversation with each other. And it was fun and interactive and pretty decent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.